I got in touch with Chris and Bob.
You were friends with them already?
Yeah, I knew Chris a bit, and Bob I fished with on the Hampshire Avon for roach. So we had a meeting and talked about it, and I said, well, let's try and go to Redmire and make a 1.5 hour film. It'd be lovely about carp fishing at Redmire. Classic, that'll be great. So we agreed to do that. The first setback was that the first week of the season, we wanted the first week of the season, so all the vegetation was all uncluttered and was immaculate. And they went to the auction. It was auction, and some builder was desperate to have it. And anyway, Chris came back. I said, how did the auction go? He said, oh, well, there's good news and bad news. Which do you want first? I said, oh, I'll have the good news first. Well, we got the week we wanted. And the bad news, it cost 2,000 quid. Oh my God, I didn't have any money for making a fishing series. So I took the idea to the BBC, and they well agreed to 6 1 hours. By then, the thing had been so successful. Primetime TV, he gave us 200,000. It cost 460,000 to make the series. So I had to keep on and on making wildlife films in order to have the money to pay for making Passion.
So you were working on wildlife films all the time you were trying to create?
Yes, the Passion, yeah, and having to go off. I did one long trip. Normally I'd keep a trip to 6 weeks because the family, so I'd come back and see the family. But I went to Antarctica for a long trip, I think it was 10 weeks or something, in order to earn enough money so I could pay for the next few sequences. Because when we went to Redmire, it was so extraordinarily successful. We had immaculate weather every day, exactly the same weather every day, and you know how important that is. The fish did exactly the same thing every day, so we could anticipate, we could plan the sequences as to what we were going to do. And we caught 4 23, 24 pounders. I thought, oh, blimey, it's
and you've
too
got
many for half an hour.
classic scenes as
and
well.
all the funny scenes with the scarecrow and the gudgeon match.
Of all the great scenes in Passion Wrangling, was it the scarecrow the best of them all?
It was rather magical. Because it still gets me when if I have to check a tape, somebody's complained about a DVD not working. And I sit there watching, and I thought at the time that I'd given Chris the cue to actually move, and I thought he'd left it too long, but it's sort of magical, and then suddenly when he starts moving, that's a sort of hair-raising moment. Jumping out the tree was quite fun as well, with the carp on the end. But I loved the gudgeon match, that was super. The problem we had was because it was meant to be a half-hour film, we had these 4 20-pounders. And I thought I need to leave one out, but they were all different, of course. One was stalking at the edge, one was on boilies, one was out of the tree. And then one of them was Chris Yates's catching one on the top, and that was the first time in all the time he'd spent at Redmire that he'd ever caught a carp on a floater.
So you couldn't leave that out.
It's extraordinary, couldn't leave that out. So in the end it had to be a 1 hour film. And then so I got talking to the lads, I said, well, we can't sell a 1 hour, we could sell a 1.5 hour. I said, we need to make it into a series of 6 1 hours. And they thought because it had been so easy, we'd done one film in 10 days. No problem, they thought this would be a doddle.
Silly boys.
Yes. As you know, to your cost because of catching the impossible. And they found it difficult after a time because, of course, a lot of it wasn't nearly as easy as that.
So the Redmire one went perfect. Everything went perfect.
And then the first programme, that wasn't any good as a start of the series. So we had to construct and get sequences to sort of introduce the childhood dreams, the first one, with Chris's son Alex catching the little fish from the little farm pond. And then we followed the seasons basically after that. And for me, the best programme was the last one, Monster Myths.
When I've seen it going away from me, across the back, it's as far across the back as my Labrador.
With the stocking record, the Donnellini stocking
Was there an
records.
actual monster in the lake? I know in the story there was, but genuinely...
Yeah, there was. We did see it a couple of times, yeah.
Was that a common mirror size?
It was a common. It was enormous, and we saw its head a couple of times because I built a scaffold up in the trees so I could look down. And 1 or 2 of the sequences, Bob hooking a fish, and it just took him apart, was rather wonderful as well. And it was right by where they climb up the tree to look for the monster. No, the monster was in there. Actually, it's the film I like best, and it's the best story and most beautiful. So it turned out really beautifully in the end, in my view.